Getting there in a way, we have a separate tab here which links back to that other one. We use data from a couple of different sources here, but primarily from the 131500 site from TAC. That helps us locate where the closest public transport nodes are for each walk. And so you can see here, this walk, the start of this walk, you can get there by bus or by car. And from the end of this walk, you've got the choice of ferry or bus. And so what we're able to do here is generate a URL with our data and the location information for the end of the walk, and then pass that to the 131500 site to provide people seamlessly information on how to get back home from the end of this walk, or alternatively to the start of the walk. So they'll see here from the end of the Spit Bridge, from the end of this walk to Hornsby Station, gives them their standard train timetables. So here they're able to get a map from the end of the walk to, in this case, to the bus stop, and then so on and so forth until they get to Hornsby Station. So a very valuable service for people, and we use that data obviously internally as well to calculate whether or not public transport facilities are available for that particular walk. It would be lovely if we could get more access to that data or to those particular nodes, transport nodes, so that we could do that a little bit more seamlessly, because that's a little bit fiddly on our end. But once it's set up, it's pretty stable, but difficult to maintain. But seems to work well, and people seem to really appreciate that transport information. Nearby, we use some federal data here for calculating things like UHFCB repeater coverage, but that comes from ACMA, which is a federal department, which I guess is not covered in this competition. Here we've got fire danger rating. This pulls from two main areas. First of all, we use the area boundaries that we discussed earlier for the local government areas to determine which fire region this walk passes through. And so once we know what fire region it's in, we've got a data stream coming from the Royal Fire Service which shows the current fire rating and the current fire bands. And you can see here we update that every hour, and we keep a check there, so in case there's a failure there, people can note that the system's fallen over and there's a integrity check, so it will disappear if it fails. But so that's using two main sources. One is from LPMA to determine which region it's in, and then from the RFS to let people know what the risks are involved in terms of fire. We also use Bureau of Meteorology data there but again, outside the scope of this competition. Now, within Sydney Harbour, you see here, it says here that there are currently closed areas. Now, that's data that we stream from DCCW, and so that people can see straight away that there's a park closure. They can then click here for more park closure information. And on some of our walks, we've been licensed to for walks that are sponsored by DCCW. We've got a license to display that closure information here. But for walks such as this one, which are not sponsored, that information is only accessible through the link here. Yeah, so that gives you a sense of the data that's available here and how it integrates, and how people can use that data quite seamlessly, and how we manage to maintain some of that data as well. What else do we use? We've got a camping application as well as part of the website, and in here we've used some information from National Parks and Wildlife Service, which we've then gone over ourselves to tweak, and between National Parks and Wildlife Service, actually not National Parks and Wildlife Service, through LPMA data, we've been able to determine the position of most of the campsites, and for the ones that we weren't able to determine, we have just gone through manually and found the location of those, so that we can provide people location information for each of the the campsites. At the moment, we don't provide driving directions based on those because we need to do some data integrity testing on that, because particularly for road information is not particularly reliable around many of the campsites. So we found that automatically giving people routing information based on that leads people astray rather than helps them actually get to their campsite. So that's fairly limited at this stage. But again, information on campsites, we know that it's in the campsite because of the boundary files. We've got maps from Department of Lands here showing us our location. And again, with walks and with campsites, we strongly encourage user feedback so that we can continue to maintain this stuff as quickly as possible and allow people to provide other information that's relevant to them, I guess. Now, under our More Information tab, we have some other information which comes from government departments. Again, Department of Lands, it's one of my big friends, I'm guessing. What we've been able to do here is, and this is something we're currently working on improving, but we've been able to show not only each map, what it looks like when it's scanned, so that people know which map to buy. We've also been able to provide the surrounding maps like you'd get on that topo map, the boundaries of that, but also an online version of that topo map as well, so that people can come in and have a bit of a look around and work out where they're going and when they, particularly for trips outside of what we currently cover under the scope of our projects. We're working on this to improve the quality and being able to maintain the updates that come from Department of Lands quite regularly. Hope to launch that in the next week or so. We're still building up our cache of the maps for that. Cool. So again, it's just all raw data from